Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the individual I had on because he and I just recently got connected, and I'm excited to hear a little bit about his journey and his story, not only about his family, but also about the stuff that he's doing now. But my good friend Michael Hensworth has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. I appreciate it. I'm glad you reached out. I'm looking forward to talking about this. I've had a couple of different people that have been on my show that are kind of in your line of work as far as music and all that kind of stuff. So I always enjoy hearing different perspectives, different views on it. But for my listeners or viewers who may not know who you are, let's talk a little bit about you, kind of how you grew up and the things that you got into, how you got into music. And then obviously this is a dad podcast, so I want to know about your kids as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I have been teaching music basically my whole life. I grew up as a piano kid. Sometimes it surprises people. They assume that as a music teacher, like I must have started taking piano when I was like 5 years old or whatever. And that was not the case. I started sort of early middle school age, but was a college music major and finished and knew that this was really the pathway that I wanted. So at the age of 20, I had my first baby. I had my first business. We started our first music school, and um, and that's what I've done for the past 22 years.
Wow. It's interesting when I think about music, I tried to play guitar. That hobby didn't last very long. I went to a couple of but I had a buddy that used to go to piano lessons. And I don't know why, but I don't know why I remember this, but I went to a couple of his piano lessons with him, and the piano instructor had me try to practice as well,
Hmm.
just kind of, to kind of get a feel of it to see if I was interested in it. And she told me that my fingers are long so that I had perfect hands to play the piano and that I should take it up. And it's probably just a sales pitch. I thought, when she told me that, I think I was probably 10, that I was going to be this, pianist that was just going to be famous and then I never played the piano again. So
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I guess it's like, oh, your kid's tall; they must be good at basketball.
right,
I'm tall; I'm not good at basketball, so you
right,
know,
right. Um, so music's always been a passion of yours, even as a kid.
it has been, yeah. And so I really loved how open that like it's like a world that kind of just kept opening doors, even the journey from going into college as a music major was just eye-opening to me because you feel like you know a lot about one thing. I've been studying the piano for years, and then you get into another level and you're like, wow, there's a whole new country of jazz and rock improvisation and playing with bands, and it's like a really big world, and there were so many different ways to access it. It wasn't homogenous. It was just a very diverse landscape, and there were so many things that you could learn from it.
Hmm. Now you said that I think you said before we started recording, your oldest is 22. How old are each of your kids again?
Yeah, so my kids now are 13, almost 17, and 22.
And are they into music?
Yeah, and interestingly, they also had very distinctive journeys as well too. We were not, my wife and I were not parents that like, well, you're in kindergarten, you have to take piano lessons, and here's your practice routine. We were not very rigid about their journey at all, and so they really had a lot of say so in what they did. Several of my kids really also like learning somewhat privately. I think partially because they grew up around a music school where they knew that you know kind of like pastors' kids, they had that association with everybody else, and so they wanted their space away where they could practice the ukulele or do their own thing, and and then we could put them in a new opportunity. So they didn't always have to be in the formal lesson like format that they want. But they all have different, passions and excitement about that. Now, my oldest daughter tours with us. We do some musical performances for elementary schools, things like that. She's in that performance group as well.
What instruments?
So my oldest sings very, very well, and she plays some piano. My middle son is a drummer. My youngest is very passionate about the guitar, and so they happen to all find their niche as well too.
And is that something that you can play? I mean, can you play all those instruments as well, or are you more of
Yeah, I was a piano major, so I play the piano very well. I play a decent amount of guitar because it travels pretty well. I play the drums the least, but I've I've been around enough to be dangerous in a variety of a variety of areas.
Um, when I was doing a little bit of research on you, I know that in one of the things that you had mentioned that you have written a music maker manual.
Mhm.
What was the purpose behind that?
I did. So I put out a book this year. I've been running a school for 22 years, the same amount of time I've had children, and I really wanted a chance to because there's a common vein that happens with families as we're busy. And in fact, like I noticed it right now because we went through a lot of things in the past 5 years with the pandemic, and in fact, I saw a lot of participation with music go up early on because it was one of those type of activities that was very personal and what you could even if soccer practice got canceled, you could still play the guitar at home or
Hmm.
whatnot. So there was this new, I think, resurgence of realizing that this was something that was kind of just a part of your life that you could hang on to. But then we also shifted back to the fact that everybody's just really busy all the time,
Right.
and now we're doing a lot of stuff. And so, how does that balance? And in my perspective, learning a musical instrument is not for the best and the brightest, for the few that are going to quote unquote do something with music, but that it's such an enrichment activity that has to do with a lot of development, a lot of cognitive development, a lot of social emotional development. And so, in the same way, I wouldn't tell my kids like, well, if you're not really that interested in doing your math homework and we're busy with basketball practice, we'll just cancel math for this year. Sometimes we do that with music. And part of my hope was to communicate, hey, there's something more going on here. And it's not necessarily just about are we achieving that highest like measure of success, but can we open up our perspective and understand the journey in such a way that we're not intimidated. A lot of parents, I think, are also intimidated that feel like, well, I don't know enough about music, so I don't know how to help them. I don't know what to expect. And my expectations are really hard to let kids grow, to use music as a vehicle that they can grow and develop. And hopefully empowering parents to kind of share in that journey, share in that perspective, to not be afraid that, oh, well, if they don't practice enough, then, like we should just give up. That will help people sustain this and really hopefully get those kind of lifelong benefits a little bit better.
Right. And I know that I want to get your perspective on this because you've been in basically in music for over 20 years. I know that music creates a lot of emotion within us.
Mhm.
I'm an avid runner, and one of the things I like to do, it's kind of, I see running as, my time to relax really, but I
Mhm.
like to listen to music while I'm running,
Yeah.
and it can create different emotions within me. Sometimes I'll hit, sometimes a song will come on and I'm feeling my run, I'm feeling good, and a song will come on and it just completely kills my motivation. And I've got to switch the song out, right?
Mhm.
So I get that motivation back. Um, that is true for all of us, even kids, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of that musical journey, I think, too, is, I mean, it's just so many layers and levels, and that's what I love about it is it's not just one thing. It's motivation for but like you're talking about with running, and it's this social bond and memory builder. Like songs that your grandpa liked to sing along to. Have a significance that for the rest of your life. I mean, you can hear that 40 years later and,
Right.
and it all sticks with you. So all of these things, kind of go into a different part of our brain there. And and then with that too, there's this confidence piece that I think is so significant that also it's great to be able to turn on a song. It's also the ability to make a song brings it to a whole nother level, like where you get to this is your chance to make your own thing. And I like to say all the time that that ability to start with nothing, like it's if you're an artist and it's a blank canvas, or if you're a musician and the song hasn't started, and to have the knowledge that you can create something, you can make something basically out of nothing, that's a powerful life tool in any area of your life, not just when you're actually playing an instrument.
And I think it's true for even storytelling. I mean, I think
Yeah.
music in itself is when you listen to a song, it's for most cases, a song is a story. It's something that somebody's feeling, and they, like you said, they create this basically this story of what they're singing, and it can in turn really develop new skills for
Yeah.
that individual. I think, I mean, I'm sure you've written songs. So when you've written those songs, that's in itself, I mean, you're authoring these songs now, you know. So there's other skills that you can develop just in learning how to play not only an instrument, because instruments do have a story too, because they different notes and stuff that you use, they do have a story that they're telling, but through the song itself is really a great avenue to pick up other skills that kids may not ever know that they even have.
Right, right. And that whole ball of skill sets is something that I really hope it opens up parents to realize because, you know, parents deserve a lot of credit in this scenario. You know, I am a private music teacher. I teach music lessons, and but I know that, you know, like I can do nothing for the students that I work with without the advocacy of their parents to bring them to lessons, to enroll them, to encourage them to practice at home. So, I mean, a parent may or may not feel like they have the technical knowledge about this sort of thing, but the parent gets to be the biggest influence and the biggest advocate for that creative development, you know, in
Mhm.
music, in art, in writing, in all of those things.
Right. No, I totally agree. You know, I wrote this down because I think it's important. As a music educator and a dad, what are some of the biggest challenges or biggest lessons that you've learned about music that not only impacts who you are, but also impacts your kids' developments beyond just the technical skills?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the number one thing is this idea that our kids are gardens and not, you know, factories. Or in the book, I borrow an analogy. This is not mine originally, but the carpenter and the gardener mentality that um, a lot of education, music education included, you know, can at times go into that factory mindset. We drop kids into the piano lessons and we do these certain activities for 2 years, and then out pops, you know, a piano player, and they look like this and they do these things, and and that's just, I mean, honestly, simply not true. But I also feel like it can be damaging because for all of the kids that did not pop out according to the blueprint, you know, there's this idea that somehow you know the plan failed, and it's not failure. It's just not how they're all going to wire. Whereas in a garden, you know, you plant 25 pumpkin seeds, and you don't expect all 25 pumpkins to turn out the same size and shape and design. You know, you're going to actually enjoy the fact that they each are distinct, and you're going to, you know, like expect and relish that. And I think that that's the same with our kids as well too. My three kids participate in music wildly differently than each other, and
Right.
you know, and they have a music teacher dad. So I mean, if anybody was going to get you know, consistent results, it would be me, and I did not.
Did they, I'm just curious, did your kids play sports at all, or were they just strictly into music?
My kids have dabbled in sports. You know, my wife and I are both non-sports related people, so I feel like the sports have been the flares. They, you know, they did recreational soccer for a season, and they did t-ball for a season, and you know, one decided to be a football fan for 1 year, and so they've dabbled. You know, we certainly have made acceptance and space for that. None of them have really landed in the sports camp, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They are not getting any sentimental connection from me either. There's not dad's favorite team to root for.
That's awesome. What would you say to a dad whose child maybe isn't particularly interested in music? Like, should they encourage them through either lessons or finding other ways to maybe tap into their creativity?
I think both. I think both are very much true. I think first and foremost, a lot of people um, say that they're not interested in music. And in fact, I literally hear this all the time because when people are enrolled in my school and they stop music lessons, you know, we ask them how things are going. Very commonly, people say, well, they're just not interested in music anymore. And I think in a majority of those cases, it it's not, you know, they say it's not music, but it's it's a piece, it's a part of the experience. Kind of like as adults, we say that people don't quit jobs because of companies, but they quit because of their managers. You know,
Mm.
there can be a similar bit there, and my own experience was similar. You know, like my first formal music education, I joined band when I was in elementary school and played my dad's trumpet, and I hated it and I quit band. And that was the end of that portion. So I got it. I mean, I was the person that tried music, didn't like it, quit, And that, of course, did not mean I was not musical because I later found my instrument and found my pathway. But that was just a great example. I mean, it was not the instrument that I was, engaged with. It was not a teacher that I was engaged with. It was definitely the wrong person as my musical role model there, and it was kind of the wrong method. There was
Mm.
I throw I thrived when I was playing the piano, and I was, sort of in a self-contained environment. I could move at my own pace, and so playing in the band and waiting for my neighbor to catch up, but like that environment was not right either. So having a mix of choices that if you say, okay, well, we took piano lessons and it didn't work. Well, I mean, that was one teacher's style and one format, like was it one-on-one or did you learn in a group? Did you try different instruments? There's actually, again, so many starting blocks. And sometimes we look at one, gate, one entry point, and we say, well, that one didn't work. So obviously music is just not our thing. And I really encourage people, well, maybe just walk around the corner because if you come in a different doorway, if you had to do all classical piano music and you just really love to rock, well, maybe if we just let you rock out, you'll do just fine. We just have to, set you up for better success and know that there's not just one pathway.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think, the same message goes for, like you said, with sports and stuff. You kind of, my boys, there are certain sports that they liked and certain sports they didn't. They grew up playing sports. They didn't really play instruments or music at all, but they grew up playing sports. They listened to a lot of music,
Right.
but they grew up playing sports and eventually, my younger son gravitated towards basketball and baseball. My older son gravitated towards basketball. And they tried soccer and absolutely hated it. I mean, there's just different things that so you give them a chance to try different things and find out what they're really into and what is really interesting to them.
Yeah. And I will say, sports has something that music doesn't have. And that is a different kind of communal experience. There are some areas that we get it, like you can, play in a band with friends, things like that. But there are many, many instances in music where you don't have the interactive elements. If you enter a piano competition, it's not like a swimming competition. You're not playing the piano and the other person's right there and you're trying to beat them, like you're in your own zone, in your own world. And so this can, in some cases, be incredibly powerful for kids that do need some of that creative space where they're not stacked up right against their neighbor all the time. But also it can sometimes be ones where, students lack some of the social connection and it's boring
Mm,
to play piano by yourself all the time and you're like not have music friends the way that you have baseball friends or soccer friends. So I think that trying to cultivate some of the social community element in music, if it's not naturally there, is also a really big part of it. We don't sing with people culturally the way that, we might have done 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So
mhm.
there are sometimes fewer connections where you're being musical with other people. And I do really believe that that's a powerful part of the experience that we might have to be proactive to do, even if it just means, carpool karaoke can be. if your car is one of those where you sing to the radio all the time, that's actually for me a very powerful experience that says, yes, we participate and we participate together.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's cool. Now, what about a dad that doesn't have any musical background at all? I don't have any musical background, but still wants to be, maybe actively involved or supportive. Maybe their child has these interests in getting into music. My boys did that. I wouldn't have a clue. Like I'd be like, okay, I need to find somebody to connect you with because I don't have a clue on those types of things. What would you recommend for parents that may be in that kind of situation?
Yeah. Well, I would say first and foremost, as a parent, um, don't apologize for, like feeling like you're out of your league a little bit. You might not have, a degree in music, but you do have a degree in your own child. And so you know your child, and that is a really, really powerful tool there as well, too. So um, sometimes music can be one of those elitist fields, and you talk with a music teacher, and they're kind of like, well, this is the best way, and this is the only way, and it's okay to question that at times. Like if you have a teacher, a musician that says basically like, this is the only way, I would say you're allowed to challenge that assumption that there might not be just one way, and if you're like, well, we've been doing this for 3 months and they are bored to tears. about this, then it's okay to want to pivot, to talk to different teachers, talk to different environments, things like that. You what you know and instinctively know about your child is usually accurate. And that goes to their learning style, as well as their preferences. So I was a very visual learner, so I did really well in a traditional music learning environment where they hand you a book and you read music and stuff like that. That was a good thing for me because I fit into a common mold that helped me succeed. But I've worked with tons of students that don't fit that mold and really learn to pivot. That instead of saying, well, they're not good at music because they don't read music, I've worked with some amazing students that are completely outside of that mold and play everything by ear and do everything too fast. And I've worked with a lot of students that have special needs, and they have some of these incredible capabilities that are just a different pathway, but you have to just listen to them and let them set some of that pace there. So I think as a parent, listen and know your child and then advocate for those things. Hey, they love to memorize songs. Can they memorize more songs and maybe do less homework, bookwork? Or hey, they're excited about the guitar. I would even say, as a younger age, just cultivate the access to stuff as well too. Like, hey, they're showing interest in the guitar. Let's buy a $40 ukulele and let's have it around the house and give them access to get hands-on, even if we're not ready for any formal program yet, just have the ability, the access to try things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you just mentioned ukulele, and I do remember a time when my older son, for whatever reason, he wanted to play the ukulele, and begged and pleaded with me to take him to I forget the name of the music store, but he wanted me to go and look at the ukuleles there, and I picked him out. I picked out a real cheap one, and I say cheap, it was still like $100,
Mhm.
and brought it home. I said, "Look, I'm going to buy this for you, but I mean, if you're serious about this, you better start playing because." This is not something that I'm just going to waste money on. So I think it lasted for about 3 weeks. And then it was like I wasn't hearing any ukulele sounds anymore. And he finally said, "Yeah, this is just not for me. I'm not really interested in this, Dad. I thought I was." And I ended up having to take the ukulele back. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. You just got to figure out what your kids really want and tap into that interest and see how it goes.
Right. Well, and I agree that ability to try, rather than to tamp it down and just say, well, no, 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 but to get one, to try it, to do it. And, in some cases there's things as well too, like, okay, maybe the fire went out and because maybe there would be a chance to join a ukulele club, maybe there's that social dynamic will makes it different, or maybe the ukuleles like me and the trumpet, maybe this is not your instrument, and who knows what the next thing may or may not be. And even
Yeah.
if not, there's a certain level of power to just having had that range of experiences
Hmm.
that even as an adult, I think you're more likely to pick something up and say, okay, I'm 40 now and I'm going to be willing to pick up a ukulele and try it because it's less scary. It's less like, oh, that's like an alien world out there, and it becomes more accessible. And I think that courage to be able to get started is a big deal too. That a lot of kids I think might really benefit from music, and it's just really intimidating to take the first step. And so helping get over those first steps can also be really powerful.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I want to ask you this. Looking back, how has your involvement in music shaped the legacy you hope to leave behind as a dad?
Yeah. Wow, what a great question. I think as a dad, the first and foremost thing that I want for my kids is to have that creative agency, that ability to um, not be a victim to their circumstances, whatever those might be, but have the ability to say, I know that I can make a choice. I can suffer setbacks, because musically you suffer that all the time. There's a lot of things you try and you suck at for a while as a music
Hmm.
student. So, that's definitely a part of the journey as well, too, is trying, failing, trying, succeeding, and having that level of confidence to say, if I want to play the ukulele, or if I want to start a business, or if I want to write a book, or any of those things, I know that, you know, I might not succeed at the first chance, but I know that I can do it, that I have that creative agency. And I hope that that leads my kids to whatever pathway they courageously want to pursue, but that they don't hold back for fear of, well, what if it doesn't work? And they are willing and able to dive in and make baby steps, like not be like, okay, I'm either good at the piano, immediately or I'm out, but be able to know if I want this, I can kind of follow the long game and I can go all the way to the end, even if it takes time. And I can learn, I can grow, and I can create something. I can make music of my own or whatever the equivalent might be.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Great points. I really do think those are great points. Um, well, let me ask you this for my listeners or viewers who want to look you up, learn a little bit more about you. Where's the best places for them to do that? And websites, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. So the book that I wrote, Mr. Michael's Music Maker Manual, is on Amazon. We also at my music school have a page dedicated to it. It has audiobook links and other resources, things like that. So our music school is called New Songs. And so the website newsongsmusic.com/manual has all those resources as well. You can look me up. I'm Mr. Michael Music Maker on social media as well too. And I love doing what I get to do, because I get to see those little light bulbs turn on all the time where I get to work with kids and they couldn't do this task and then they can. And that is just such an excellent moment. And as a music teacher, that's my favorite thing is to go from I couldn't do this, whatever this is, through the challenge, and now I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, Michael, I really appreciate you being on. I appreciate you sharing your insights. Definitely excited that we got a chance to connect, and I'm hoping to continue to stay in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, this has been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend, Mr. Michael Hemsworth, for being on the show. Please make sure you check out all the links that he has provided as far as his book goes and as far as his website and social media. All those links are in the show notes below that you can check him out there, learn a little bit more about him. If you have questions or something, maybe you're having struggling with something with music and just have a general question, make sure you reach out to him. I'm sure he would be more than happy to answer it. But if you are not yet
Absolutely.
subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Data. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, dad up.